This episode of the Glen Alex Show is a slight departure from what I normally do. I normally have a guest and we focus on one aspect of health. However, because of what's going on in the world, the civil unrest, the shutdown, and just the seemingly endless bad things that are happening, I wanted to focus on one aspect of health that I don't think people go deep enough into, and that is boundaries. Boundaries for me is much, much more than saying no. Boundaries on the personal level, in relationships, with systems. And it's the systems that I want to focus on right now because given the level of violence that we're seeing in law enforcement, and with each other, I think systems need to be held more accountable for their poor boundaries. Yes, systems have poor boundaries. I'm talking about the managers and the supervisors and those decision makers who are in a position to rein things in, yet don't. To put a stop to things, yet don't. To nip things in the bud before they blossom into something worse, they don't. So let's look at how systems can help us, can help heal the world, can help unite the world, can help stop all the BS and violence and unnecessary harm that is going on right now. So the first part of boundaries I want to look at, and I do teach that there are truths about boundaries that are unyielding. They just are. Let's start with truth number one. Human nature is to continue doing what we can get away with. Why do people lie? Because they can get away with it. Why do people cheat? Because they can get away with it. Why do people steal or harm others? Because they can get away with it. Just look at what's happening in our world, the escalation of violence. The perpetrators don't just wake up that one morning and say, I'm gonna do something out of the ordinary and blow up a rally or step on somebody's neck. That is a gradual movement, progression towards that level of behavior because they've gotten away with smaller hurts and harms and illegalities before that day. So people do will continue to do what they do as long as they get away with it. That's the bottom line. Most humans do not learn from feeling guilty. Most humans do not learn from being yelled at, just yelled at. We learn from consequences. Positive, negative, and neutral consequences always result from any choice, action, or deed that I perform. And that's true for every single human being on this planet. So if I make a decision and I have a negative consequence from that decision, that's going to get my attention far more than a finger wave or a thumbing of the nose or even being yelled at. Because all I have to do is weather that storm, and then the pressure's off. I can go back about my way and continue to hurt and harm and do whatever the hell I want to do. That's human nature, to continue doing what you're allowed to get away with. So in these systems, I know I've worked with people who were so abusive to others mentally, emotionally, verbally, and the company kept them on. I know people who violated human rights, the civil rights within the office, and yet the company kept them on. So those people continue to do it because they were allowed to get away with it. There were no negative consequences, or there was no positive consequence for their good behavior either. So, when we talk about consequences, there is the negative consequence, yes, and that's handcuffs. That's being incarcerated or sued. Or retaliated against. Positive consequences involve reinforcement for what we do well, what we do right, what we do good. So let's do both. Let's apply the negative consequences to correct some of this hurtful, lethal behavior. At the same time, let's reinforce what is good about people, what is working, what is right. Systems are in a position to do that far more than single individuals, although individuals also are responsible for what they contribute to the problem. Because if individually, if we one by one allow harms to continue, then collectively we are at fault. So we each have a part to play in healing this world, healing our wounds, and getting to a place where we're not so cutthroat. This is ridiculous. I am so distraught. I am so distraught at the way things are going. We can do better, people. Let's do better. Systems, let's start with you. Let's start with you. And I will throw in that I think it is a move in the right direction, that police departments are starting to, implement their own reforms. I think it's a positive step on the system's part as well when Karen calls the cops on a man in a park because he asked her to put a leash on her dog. I think the systems are holding people individually more accountable for the behavior that leads to the more harmful, lethal stuff. So that gives me some hope. We can still do better. And I'm calling on the systems to look within and make those changes. Truth number 2, human behavior unchecked escalates. It gets worse over time. So if you're sitting back waiting for someone, oh, I won't say anything because they'll figure it out. I hope they stop. I hope they get it. They won't get it because they can get away with doing what they want. So why would they stop? Why would they change? We need appropriate consequences because, again, I don't believe anyone wakes up on the morning of and says, I'm going to go out and shoot somebody. I'm going to go out and run some people down. It's just the cumulative power that they gain from getting away with what they got away with yesterday, last week, last month, last year, last decade, emboldens them. And the behavior gets worse because there is no consequence. There is no interruption of their behavior. I don't know how to express that any more clearly. While we're waiting for people to change, people typically do not change on their own. We need to help them understand, and each other, that certain things are just unacceptable. 8 minutes and 46 seconds? Give me a break. And posing, the comfort level of that photograph, I didn't see the video because I couldn't unsee it. I cannot handle it. It's too painful and it's too deep. But 8 minutes and 46 seconds posing. And the other one is just standing there and in front of the camera, knowing they're being videotaped, but also knew that there would be no consequence for them. There was no reason to stop. We need to give them a reason to stop. We need to give each other a reason to stop. We need to stop with the violent protests. We need to stop with the these side fringe groups that are trying to terrorize us on a level that we haven't seen in a long time. And some of us haven't seen that at all. So I'm just putting it out there for systems to start to take a deeper look at the power you have to help set humanity back on the right course. I'm not sure we were ever on it consistently enough to say we were on it. So systems, I'm calling on systems to shore up your boundaries, strengthen your boundaries, and hold people accountable for what they do wrong and reward them for what they do right. And that combination, I'm certain, will help allay a lot of this social discord and distress. Life throws enough curves at us, enough challenges without us being imposing this on ourselves. And knowingly, unwittingly, sitting in silence, allowing it to continue and fester and build and get worse and worse and worse. Please, we can do better. We are so much better than this. Let's find a way to set it right. And corporations, businesses, governments, organizations, please set appropriate boundaries so we can get a handle on this craziness. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Glen Alex Show. Please allow me to leave you with this closing thought, a reading from Living in Total Health. Strip away skin, looks, hair, material possessions, and expectations, and what's left is truth, yours and mine. Personal truth is about who you and I are before, after, and throughout time, and without any teachings, dogma, or propaganda. Take a few moments and imagine gazing at the sparkle in a loved one's eyes or being in your favorite happy place. How was that for you? I venture to say that your awareness of race and gender and vehicle and job and religious doctrine disappeared. I bet you were connected to more than your imagined environment, and you felt plugged in to life. Love, my friend, is the underlying adhesive that binds us to all there is. And connection is a manifestation of truth, which is about who you and I are at the beginning and at the end of time, though each of us has his or her own talents, gifts, lessons to be learned, and purpose in life. And hopefully that purpose in life for each of us includes loving each other, being kind, being true, and just understanding that we really are all in this together. Let's make the best of it. Until next time, be well.